Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
We are on to day 3 of quarterback rankings week. If you haven't seen the first 2 days, we covered the ACC and the Big 12, so be sure to check those out. And we'd really appreciate the YouTube viewers clicking the thumbs up, subscribing to the podcast. That helps us grow it as we're trying to do. And today we're covering the Big 10. Trey made these rankings, so let's get into number 14, your worst starting quarterback in the Big 10, Ryan Hilinski at Northwestern.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's just mainly because Northwestern itself, their offense was so putrid last year. It's projected to have one of the worst offenses in the country again this year. It wasn't all on Hilinski's shoulders, but Northwestern, they scored 14 points or less in 7 of their last 8 games. It's not a good stat you want to have. But his stats alone, they're just not very good. He's really going to have to elevate his game for him to be any higher on this list.
Yeah, to me that was an easy 14th pick. Let's move on to number 13, though. We have a well-traveled player, Noah Vedral at Rutgers.
Yeah, and he, of course, is in a quarterback battle with the highly touted Gavin Wimsatt. And, really the dream for Rutgers fans is to have Wimsatt, develop it and take over. As we sit here right now, I think Vedral might get the nod at least day one, and Wimsatt maybe takes over later. But if I'm just looking at Vedral here, he gives you a decent floor, but just not much of a ceiling there. The last 2 years, he's thrown 16 touchdowns, 15 picks. He's, like you said, Ryan, he's been around a long time, multiple programs. He just kind of is what he is.
Okay, moving on to number 12, kind of a weak bottom of the conference here so far, Spencer Petras at Iowa.
Yeah, and you could say he's kind of maybe in a battle with Alex Padilla, but I think Petras ends up being the guy. After all, he did at least get them to the Big Ten title last year. Not that it was all him, of course, but the Iowa offense it's not good. That's not breaking news. And I just don't see Petras turning into something he hasn't been overnight. There was an article I read that was evaluating quarterbacks, particularly in the Big Ten, and the quote was, "He won't wow you with his arm or anything, and certainly won't with his legs." Like, not a high review there. So
is there a but there? No, that's
that was kind of the but. I think was more alluding to the fact that he's a winner, that he's won games at least. But yeah, he's not efficient. He does what he has to do to run this Iowa system. It would be so much. But we've talked about this before. It would be fun to see Iowa open it up a little bit and pair a decent offense with the great defense that they usually have.
Yeah, just not happening. Yeah, he's been pretty bad. All right, moving on to maybe another not so stellar player, but Tommy DeVito. This one's at least intriguing because he's a new guy for the school. But Tommy DeVito at Illinois now.
Yep. He's going from one orange school to another in Illinois, Syracuse transfer.
True.
I think he's going to beat out the old Rutgers transfer, Art Sitkowski, for this gig. DeVito, he's battled injury the last couple years, lost his job to Garrett Schrader last year. But Illinois fans, they're really hoping that the 2019 DeVito is coming. That year, he had 63% completions, 19 touchdowns. He ran when he needed to. And if you look at Illinois, they started to play pretty well in the back half of last year, so maybe DeVito can kind of regain some of that form and get Illinois trending up in Bielema's second year.
2019. That's pre-COVID. That's
I know, but
numbers.
He's battled injury, and we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, number 10, we have a former top recruit, which feels like a long time ago. Is that pre-COVID now? Probably. So Graham Mertz, Wisconsin.
Yeah, like you alluded to, you didn't think we'd see him this low a couple years ago. Especially, he lit it up that first game. We're like, oh my gosh, this guy's the
Friday
second
night against Illinois.
Yep.
Yeah, and boom. Last year, 10 touchdowns, 11 picks, less than 7 yards an attempt. He does a good job handing it off to Allen, though, and sometimes that's all you need with that Badger offense. I will say that if there's a positive, he's getting paired with a new offensive coordinator, Bobby Ingram. So maybe the new voice will help him out this year.
Yeah, he needs it. Okay, moving on to another fellow transfer here. At number 9, we have Connor Bazelak at Indiana.
Yeah, and I think he'll end up beating out the incumbent Jack Tuttle. There's even the young Donovan McCauley there. But, he's coming in from Mizzou, and I think he was pretty good for them. The stats didn't always show the whole story, as the Tigers kind of were always up against those stronger SEC teams. But he put up over 5,000 yards in his career, 23 touchdowns. The problem for him going into this year is Indiana's offense has been pretty unstable the last few years, musical chairs at quarterback, and overall the offense really isn't predicted or expected to do much. But he brings good experience and stability. I think it establishes a good floor for the Hoosiers.
Okay, moving on to number 8. Ryan does not want to hear about his good year. I can assure you of that. It's Tanner Morgan, Minnesota. That's just a different era. Different era of football.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. It was black and white. It does, though, when you look back to that 2019 season that you're alluding to, Michael, it's starting to look like more of an aberration, though. That year he had 30 touchdowns, 10 yards per attempt. But, when you look back, obviously it kind of helps when you have a couple NFL wide receivers to throw to, and everything was kind of clicking. Yeah, everything clicked. The problem is it's kind of crazy to have that much of a regression that he's had the last couple years. He's been very inefficient, hasn't scared any defenses whatsoever the last 2 seasons. I guess the good thing for Gopher fans is Kirk Soraka, that offensive coordinator that was there then, is back. And ideally, the running back position will also be a little more healthy this year to help him out.
Yeah. You never know. He could have a bounce back final year. Speaking of a player that could use a little bit of a boost, we got Sean Clifford. The Sean Clifford era at Penn State still going on. What do you think of him, Trey?
Yeah, he's good, but he's not great. He just doesn't elevate Penn State to the level that the team probably obviously wants or maybe even deserves. He's tough. He's a threat with his legs, but he just doesn't have kind of that it factor that I think you're looking for, especially with his arm. Because overall his numbers aren't terrible. Over 60% completion percentage. He threw 21 touchdowns last year, and he's fairly reliable. He just doesn't have that high ceiling that the Nittany Lions would like, so that they could kind of get over the top, especially when you're going up against the C.J. Strouds and the forces at Michigan and Michigan State. So maybe he'll turn a corner this year.
Yeah, I kind of like Sean Clifford. I just feel like if he had better offensive line play, then we would think a lot more highly of him. So hopefully he gets that this year.
That's fair.
Number 6 is the Texas transfer, Casey Thompson at 3 of us. Ryan is wearing a Nebraska shirt right now. So, yeah, we are Husker fans.
Yes. I think he'll for sure be the starter. He is going up against Chuba Purdy, another transfer, and then Logan Smothers. But overall, Casey Thompson, I don't know what people outside of the Nebraska spectrum are going to think of this ranking. Personally, I think Thompson's pretty good. Texas' defense was so bad, caused them to lose some games. Thompson didn't really get much appreciation. He threw 24 touchdowns, 63% completions, ran pretty well. He added 4 more scores on the ground. He's not necessarily going to be the threat that Adrian Martinez was with his legs, but Nebraska fans would think he would make some better decisions through the air. I think the biggest challenge for him and the Huskers is, can he gel with all of the new pieces and faces on the Nebraska offense? I guess if you want to point to something you'd like, he's getting matched up with Mark Whipple as the offensive coordinator, who just came from Pitt, developing Kenny Pickett. So it's another good, quarterback whisperer, if you will.
Yeah, he's a tough one to judge because his numbers were good, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen here in Nebraska? All right, moving on to number 5. We have a QB who led his team to the playoff last year, Cade McNamara of Michigan.
Yeah, and I think Michigan fans want J.J. McCarthy to be the guy, since he seemingly has a little bit more upside. At least that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from some of their fans. Shout out AP, one of my buddies. McNamara, he did, like you said, right? I mean, he led them to the Big Ten title after all, so he's not chopped liver. But he just wasn't making the big flashy plays. Did what he needed in Harbaugh and Gaddis's offense. But even if McCarthy, behind him doesn't pan out or is hurt, McNamara gives the Wolverines, it's kind of a theme here, but a solid floor. He has some confidence going into 22. No reason to think that he can't, elevate his game off after last year. And not to mention Blake Corum in the backfield helps him out. They get Ronnie Bell back at receiver. So there's some things to like.
Yeah, I think the offense will be better this year. Number 4 is one of the surprises in the Big Ten last year, Payton Thorne at Michigan State.
I totally agree. He really surprised me last year. He had a tremendous season, 3 for 27 touchdowns, a lot of exciting plays, kind of threw the ball, a lot of long bombs. The biggest question, really for Michigan State, is what is he going to do without Kenneth Walker III in the backfield to help open up the field for him? But maybe the transfer Broussard at running back will help fill that void. He also has Jaden Reed to throw to, who's definitely one of the top few receivers in the Big Ten. So really the question is, does he plateau off, or does he continue to does Thorne continue to develop into a superstar in this league? I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how it pans out for him.
Yeah, everything seemed to go right for Sparty last year, including at QB. All right, moving on though to number 3, the younger Tagovailoa from Maryland.
Yeah, Taulia, he's fun to watch. I mean, he just set a school record, nearly 70% completion percentage, almost 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns. He gets a couple good receivers, Dante Demas and Raheem Jarrett back. SP Plus, look at their preseason projects Maryland to have the 15th best offense in the country. So even if their defense doesn't live up to to do much, it's fun to watch this team because of their offense. And there's really no reason to think that he can't still develop more after last season. Really was his first full season.
All right. Number 2 is Aidan O'Connell at Purdue.
I think a lot of people from the outside might be surprised to hear that the Purdue quarterback is the second best in the Big Ten. Especially since they haven't had the stellar win-loss record the last couple of years. But it's not Aidan O'Connell's fault at all. Over 70% completions last year, 28 touchdowns. They had that thrilling Music City Bowl victory over Tennessee. I guess the bad news here for Purdue is that he lost David Bell to the NFL, and then Milton Wright, their other receiver, was ruled academically ineligible. But despite that, Jeff Brom always finds ways to churn out productive offenses, and O'Connell's talent and play should help elevate whoever's left in the receiver room.
Yeah, and they won 9 games last year, I think. So,
9-4, I believe. Yeah,
last year was very good.
Yeah,
I mean that'll be tough to match, but they'll be pretty good.
Agreed. All right, number 1, the obvious one here, CJ Stroud from Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't need to say anything. He's the clear number 1 Heisman contender. 44 touchdowns last year. Just, we know his receiving core is ridiculous, so he's the man.
All right, let's take a look at the full list here. If you're watching on YouTube, I really don't have any strong disagreements here. I'm curious to see if the commenters have any, because I don't know. I mean, maybe you could argue for a guy here or there to be 2 slots higher or lower, but I don't see it, and I certainly don't see anything more than that. What struck me about the list, though, is there are only 3 new starters here. That's the fewest of any conference we're covering this week, so maybe that's a good sign, although at the bottom of the list, not sure it is. But yeah, starting from like Connor Bazelak at 9 or maybe Mertz at 10 downward, it's pretty weak. So I think that hurts the Big Ten's chances. If we're trying to rank all the conferences who has the best slate of quarterbacks, I don't think the Big Ten's in the running.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah, this is a week. Honestly, CJ Stroud's good, but after that, there's question marks. Even, Aidan O'Connell did do pretty well at the end, but without his top 2 guys, he could have some question marks. And talk about Tagovailoa, Maryland had some inconsistency. I don't know. I think it's pretty weak overall for the Big Ten. As good as the conference has been, I think this is a very weak. And there's some really bad ones too. Like I mean, the bottom 4, woo.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
All right.
Maybe
well,
the bottom 5.
Who you adding?
Giving
on to-
Mertz too much love on that one.
Oh, yeah. True.
He's pretty bad.
All right. Well, thanks for checking out this episode of the College Football Bros. Be sure to, again, let us know your thoughts on Trey's list, and we will see you tomorrow when we discuss the Pac-12.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.